Hey everybody, welcome back to Moving Matt. We do vlogs, travel, and some camera stuff. And today I'm going to be talking about the Sony A7S III versus the Canon R5, and which is better for travel content creators. So first I'm going to go through some pros and cons of each, then go through a few of the unknowns, and at the end I'm going to give you my opinion of which one I will be getting and which one might be best for you. So a couple weeks ago when the Canon R5 and R6 were announced, I made a similar video to this one comparing the R5 versus the R6. I'll link that video in the description below. But what a difference a couple weeks can make. So the A7S III has finally been announced. The Sony unicorn camera is finally here, and man, is it making some waves. So first, I'm going to start off with the Sony A7S III and give you a few pros and cons of it. So pro number one, the 12 megapixel sensor. So the 12 megapixel sensor has many different benefits. I'll talk about one right now. That is the one-to-one layout of 4K. There's no oversampling here. There's no extra data here. It is just pristine, beautiful 4K coming directly from the sensor. The second pro, going along with the 12 megapixel sensor, is the incredible low light that you are able to get through this camera. So the 12 megapixel sensor allows for larger pixels and allows more light to get into the sensor, causing an excellent low light capable camera. And it's a great addition if you're a travel creator, because often when you're traveling, making a travel video or a travel vlog, you are at the mercy of the time of day. And it may be dark outside, it may be evening, and something interesting is happening in the story, and you need to tell that particular part of the story. You may not have the perfect sunlight conditions. You may not have an external light with you. And that A7S III low light is gonna be a godsend for those type of situations. Another pro for the S3 in a similar vein is the high dynamic range. The dynamic range on this camera is really only second to a few cinema cameras and on par with a lot of them. And going along with the idea that in travel scenarios, you don't always have the perfect lighting, being able to get the darkest darks and the brightest brights, or having a really bright sky but still being able to see your subject is going to be an excellent addition to any travel video. Another pro of the A7S III is going to be the 4K 120 and the 4K 60. Since the sensor is the perfect size for 4K video, it doesn't have to do any pixel bending or anything like that to get the 4K image, giving you the most crisp 4K 60 and 120 that you're going to get out of either one of these cameras. The final pro that I see for travel creators with the A7S III, and it's probably the biggest one, and that is no overheating, or at least minimal overheating. In most scenarios, it is performing excellent. You're able to get pretty much all the 4K 60 you want. You can get some 4K 120, and even if the camera does overheat some, being able to turn that camera on only a few minutes after the fact and be able to get a lot more time use out of it is going to be huge for travel creators, especially if you are in a really hot climate, which a lot of people who are digital nomads and travel video creators love to see tropical environments or beach environments. If you're outside a lot in hot conditions, then the S3 is going to be an excellent choice for you. And now that I've went through a few of the pros for the Sony A7S III, let me go to a couple of the cons, and really this list isn't that big. Con number one, the 12 megapixel sensor. And even though the 12 megapixel sensor is also a pro and great for a lot of the video features, it also makes it not ideal for photography. And if you're a travel content creator, a lot of people are creating an Instagram account, and yes, the 12 megapixel can maybe scoot you by for an Instagram pic. It's still not gonna be ideal. It's not gonna allow you to crop in on your pictures if you maybe didn't get the perfect shot. So if you're looking for a hybrid type camera, the A7S III may not be the one for you. Another con in the A7S III is it's not necessarily 100% pushing the envelope. Yes, they are doing a lot of things excellent, a lot of things top notch, and they're doing everything top notch really well. They're going to be extremely reliable, but you're not getting those high resolution. You're not getting 8K. You're not even getting 6K. You're not getting oversampled 4K. You're getting 4K, and they do it great. But if you're wanting to be able to crop in on your video, because sometimes when you're traveling, a subject may be further away from you than you want it to be. Maybe it's somebody in the distance that you find interesting. Maybe it's a certain scenic view, but you're driving away from it. You can't control every different scenario. Having that 8K to be able to punch in will be excellent. And will also maybe be able to make up for a lack of lenses. And that is something that if you're wanting to travel light, 8K would have been a great addition, or even 6K. So now, let me go over to the Canon R5, some of the pros and some of the mighty cons. So a pro of the R5 is gonna be that 45 megapixel sensor. With that 45 megapixel sensor, you're gonna be able to get excellent still photography with that camera. You're gonna be able to crop in and zoom in when maybe you didn't get the perfect angle or the perfect shot. And a lot of times, travel creators aren't necessarily just creating for Instagram. They're also creating for their own websites to build their own photography portfolio, or they may be selling stock photography to help mitigate the cost of travel. Another pro for the R5 is going to be that 8K RAW and 8K video. It's going to be able to get you that extra resolution, that extra crisp video that you're going to be able to zoom in and do all the things that you might not be able to do with the Sony A7S III. Another pro of the R5 is going to be the 4K HQ, which is the 8K downsample to the 4K, giving you the crispest 4K video that you're going to get out of either one of these cameras. Another pro that I will throw in the R5 category is C-Log. C-Log is a log profile that is excellent and very easy to color grade for, and I think is a huge benefit if you're on the road and you might be needing to edit your videos faster. Thank you for licking my leg, Bella. I love you so much. I do. But you can't come over licking my legs in the middle of my thing. So my dog, she just loves attention, so now I have to hold her. Now going over to some of the cons of the R5 is going to be some big cons. And that is the 8K video is great, but you're gonna have huge file sizes. File sizes that maybe you can't handle on your current computer, especially a laptop. It's also gonna be such large file sizes that you probably won't have the storage capacity to be able to store those files if you're on the go. Another con of the R5 is gonna be that it overheats, and it overheats really bad. It overheats like me in this light holding this really hot furry dog. It is a hot camera, and the 8K and the 4K HQ, which are some of the biggest benefits, may not even be usable in certain climates, or very sparsely usable. Another big con is going to be that the 4K that is not oversampled, the one that doesn't overheat, is not going to be the highest quality because it's going to be pixel bended. Another con is going to be that the low light just doesn't compare to the A7S III. And if that is an important part of your videos, then the A7S III may be the camera for you. You ready to get down? You're gonna get down and not lick my legs? Okay, you can go. Going along with that low light, the R5 is not gonna have quite the dynamic range that the A7S III is gonna have. And that may be a big deal for a lot of people. The final con of the R5, and it kind of just puts all the cons together, is it doesn't seem that the R5 is going to be near as reliable as the A7S III. Now that I've summarized the pros and cons of the A7S III and the Canon R5, let me give you my opinion on a few of the things that I believe may be coming down the pike, the things that may mitigate the R5's cons. And that is that I think there may be a recall. So the Canon R5 was supposed to be shipping right about this time, and most retailers are reporting that they didn't get near as many units as they were expecting. And they also say that the second wave of units isn't coming till either late October or even into November. That tells me that Canon is not going to be sold on losing this generation, especially after all the work they put into this R5. I think they are hard at work on adding firmware to the R5 and maybe even implementing a few hardware changes to be able to mitigate that heat. So if I had to guess, the R5 and Sony A7S III are going to be a lot closer within the next 4 or 5 months. But that is just complete speculation. Now let me give you my opinion as it stands for travel creators. I think for most travel creators, the A7S III is going to be the better bet. And I say that kind of heavy-hearted because I had a whole lot of hope in the Canon R5, and I am a Canon shooter at this point. I have Canon glass, and I don't see myself at all switching over to Sony. I am happy that I switched over to Canon. I think the Canon R5 is a great camera, but if I was starting from scratch today, I would be hard-pressed not to choose the A7S III. That being said, the Canon R5 also offers a whole lot, especially if you're more in that fusion category, you're wanting to take a lot of stills and some video. And also, I do think that they're going to be working on this camera behind the scenes, kind of like they did with the Canon R. When it originally came out, a lot of people wrote it off completely, but later on in its camera cycle, people started to pick it up because they realized the usability and all the firmware updates really improved that camera. So I really think that you could be great with either one. If you're a Canon shooter already, there's really no reason to switch over to Sony unless maybe you don't have much invested in the glass. And if you're a Sony shooter, you definitely don't need to be switching to the R5, especially if video is your primary goal. But with all the information that we have right now, not knowing anything that's coming in the future, not knowing if the Sony A7S III really performs as great as it seems to, and not knowing if the R5 will be helped with firmware or maybe even hardware changes, I have to say that if I was starting today, then I think that the Sony A7S III is going to be the most reliable and best camera for travel content creators. But hey, that is just my opinion of where everything sits right now. Drop in the comment section below and let me know your opinion. Which one are you more excited for? Does the incredible specs of the R5 and the photo capabilities outweigh some of the limitations? Or does the reliability, low light, and dynamic range of the A7S III sound like a better deal to you? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.